Our Helicon West writing workshops are a live reading and workshop series that brings published local writers to read and write alongside community members in an open, uncensored forum in order to promote the voice of every community member and democratic ideals. We honor all levels of skill, ability, and craft. We invite and celebrate aspiring writers from every walk of life to find and share their voices with us. We are committed to the causes of inclusion, accessibility, and representation in our writing community. Helicon West operates on the territory of the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation, whose people have been living, working, and residing on this land from time immemorial. We acknowledge that these lands carry the stories of these nations and their struggles for survival and identity. We recognize elders past and present as peoples who have cared for and continue to care for the land. In offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous self-governance, history, experiences, and resiliency of the Native people who are still here today. I would like to thank our sponsors, the Logan Library, Sugar House Review, the USU English Department, and our founder and matron saint, Star Colebrook. If you would like to read during the open mic portion of our event after the workshop, please find our sign-up sheet near the beverages. After our featured reader, we will get as far down the list as time permits. Each reader will have up to 7 minutes of time to read for us, and after 7 minutes, they will be politely clapped off the stage. All of our Helicon West events are recorded and then posted to our Helicon West YouTube channel. If you do not wish to be recorded, let Joseph know, and he will stop the recording. At our workshops, we will start with a brief craft presentation, after which we will be provided with a writing prompt, and together we will write for about 35 minutes. In which time you are welcome to write in response to that prompt or work on your own writing projects. We will finish the evening with our open mic. As far as announcements go, our next Helicon West event will be on October 12th. It will be in this room, and Rachel Ruckert, the author of East Winds, will be here. That will be really good. And I think that's it. So now I'm going to introduce Jack Bylund. Let me find your introduction really fast. Okay, so Jack Bylund teaches English at USU while pursuing his master's. He has writing published in Blind Corner, Nightlight, and Sink Hollow, among other magazines. His accomplishments include not going to law school and winning 3rd place at his 4th grade speed jump roping competition. I can talk. And that's Jack.
Okay, hello everybody, welcome. I think it is fair to say that Jesus Christ is the main character of the Gospels for the most part. He is the Messiah, he is Emmanuel, the Zatz-Hadarat, the Bisanagaib, more or less, something like that. But what makes Jesus a compelling main character to the point of driving billions of people's faith across thousands of years is not that he is the perfect main character, but rather the imperfections of the humanity that we see in him as the Son of God, or at the very least the imperfection that he has to deal with when encountering doubt or faithlessness or outright unintelligence, denseness in his apostles, the people he teaches, his political enemies. And so I am looking to address today an idea that main characters are made much more compelling by being flawed, by making mistakes, by knowingly making bad choices at times, rather than having to be moral paragons that represent the foundation of virtue and morality in our society. And so briefly, I will criticize some pieces of media. Please feel free to keep loving that media, whether we criticize or not. I am going to be dealing in some generalities because I have 10 to 15 minutes, so I don't have time to cover every nuance, but I still hope that this is helpful to you regardless of that kind of breezy mental time. Can I take this off?
Yeah.
Is that...
We got Yeah.
Cool, thank you. I need to teach your walk around. So something to bear in mind is that something I am very tired of is main characters who have fake flaws. No more characters whose main flaw is how much they care about their friends. That leads to repetitive plot scenarios where the bad guy, rubs their hands together and says, well, they will come to me, that kind of crap. This whole idea of the protagonist whose main thing is that they are so good that they will give themselves up, or they are so good they will do anything for their friends. It's boring. And yes, it's relatable because we all love our friends and our family. It's just not, it's been done to death. And what my hot take about that, so we have our Star Wars, our Twilight, our Harry Potter here. What I think is notable about all three of these characters is that nobody loves these three main characters. That's nobody's favorite thing about Star Wars, Twilight, or Harry Potter. If I had time, I would poll you all for your favorite Star Wars, Twilight, Harry Potter character, but I think our findings would be that what you love about these particular stories is not their lead, it's not their hero, it's their setting, it's their quirky, beloved side characters. Not them, because they are boring, they are bland. Oh, and the other thing there is, please no fake flaws either, no charmingly clumsy, no quirky, none of that. Let's have actual problems, shall we? So an important thing to note, though, that I think is part of why this happens is that you, as a writer, are not your main character usually. I'm not big on the fan fiction scene, so I can't address self-insert. But either way, your character behaving one way, even a bad way, does not reflect you as an individual. And as I have written on the slide here, that kind of thinking leads to these vanilla, boring characters. Your character should not usually be a stand-in for you and does not need to echo your thoughts, opinions, politics on every nuance of every issue, and should not, again, behave in the way that you would expect yourself to behave on your best day. I have visual representations here of Amy from Little Women, whether the book or the movie. I am a Greta Gerwig fan myself, so I love the 2019 film. Amy is a main character who makes enormous mistakes across her character journey. We have the shot here is a traumatizing one. She is burning her sister's novel on screen, a moment that has traumatized generations of young writers, and for some of them made Amy unforgivable. I find that in her character journey she redeems herself by being wonderful. And here we've got some minor spoilers for a 50-year-old text. Up top we have Paul Muad'Dib from Dune. Paul is a more prototypical chosen one character, but his leadership flaws lead to a loss of control of the very religion that he seeks to weaponize and mass genocide across the galaxy. He makes bigger mistakes than most characters, I dare say, across his hero's journey and then his hero's fall. Spoilers for Dune Messiah coming out 2027 or something. Devastated by the Dune 2 delay, by the way. So with that in mind, give your characters meaningful flaws and struggles. We don't have time or space for saints anymore because they are not interesting. Make them quick to anger, make them vindictive, make them, I would love to hear from you, what kind of flaws? Give me flaws.
Selfish?
Make them selfish. Scarlett O'Hara of Gone with the Wind comes to mind as far as that goes, which Gone with the Wind, but selfish, vindictive, bitter, quick to anger, maybe a little dumb sometimes.
Ignorant to things outside of their realm?
Ignorant, for sure. Also a good vehicle for exposition. They don't know anything, everyone gets to tell them things. But either way, something to bear in mind that I have on the slide, maybe you've already read, is that these flaws should be more than just set dressing for your story. These flaws should be more than just a charming little quirk about the character, although there should be charming quirks about your character's and beloved. But these meaningful flaws should be more than set dressing. They should actually hinder your character in their journey, in their character development, in their ability to achieve their goals. That's how you create characters that have actual meaningful flaws. Hot right over here. I feel a little breathless just because I have so much time and so little time and so many things to say. So I recommend, and again we're dealing in generalities here, give your main character a central flaw to overcome, because all in all, stories are about people who change, except when the main character is boring. Because to revisit Harry Potter, Luke Skywalker, and Bella Swan, those characters do not change in their story. They are functionally the same people in the beginning of their narrative as they are in its conclusion. Harry Potter was always going to give his life for his friends. Bella was always willing to give it all for her friends. Luke was a little whinier at the start of his than he is by the end. But is that character development, or is it just him upgrading in terms of badassery? Who's to say? You get a lightsaber and your life changes. But again, essential change. I had this is a nonfiction memoir, so I'm not being very fair. But this is Boy Erased, which is both, like I said, a memoir, but also a film that deals with a main character who is sent to conversion therapy camp by his family to cure his homosexuality. You can imagine with what I'm wearing what I think of that. But in the course of his story, Gerard is his name, it's very hard to say, so in the movie they change his name. He overcomes his own internalized homophobia and his need for that approval from his church and from his family to become a better realized version of himself. That is a central flaw that he overcomes. And then you end up, I have this bullet point here of, I don't generally recommend writing a bigoted character. Don't have bigotry as a flaw in your main character, in part because, particularly if you are writing from the point of view, that will entail that you, therefore, write passages of bigotry in the course of your characterization. And I don't think that that's a fun writing experience, nor a particularly fun reading experience. But also, I'm not the boss of you. And these are other examples. My favorite movie in the world is Jojo Rabbit. Our central main character, you know, that child on the poster, is Jojo Betzer, who lives in 1940s era Nazi Germany. And he is in Hitler Youth, and he discovers his mother is hiding a Jewish teenager in the walls of their house. He is not able to report her to the Gestapo because he and his mother will both get in trouble for harboring a Jew during World War II. So he is forced to interact with this Jewish teenager and eventually overcome his own prejudice. So here we are breaking man rules, but he overcomes his prejudices, drops the Anti-Semitism Act, stops being a Nazi, and becomes a good person. I don't think it's a spoiler for this movie to tell you he's not a Nazi by the end of it. Also, he has an imaginary friend who is Hitler. It's very funny, it's very sad. Over the course of the Hunger Games, perhaps a more familiar, iconic story, Katniss Everdeen is a coarse and difficult personality that lacks charisma. But over the course of playing this game, she learns that she has to play the game and become a character and chase a narrative and garner sympathy from a cruel audience that wants to watch her, you know, hunt other children for sport. But as she takes on that personality, that is how she gains favor, that is how she, you know, fakes a romance in order to garner that sympathy, and that is how, spoilers for a book or a movie you have surely seen, wins the Hunger Games. Come on, there's a sequel, you know that she won. And lastly, Puss in Boots, my favorite animated movie from last year, has a central character who has no fear of death until he comes to the last, he's a cat, so he comes to the last of his 9 lives, until the personification of death itself is pursuing him. It's that spooky wolf with the eyes in the background that you'll see there in the top left corner. Puss has that central flaw that he has terror of his own mortality and has to overcome that in the course of his own journey. Again, spectacular movie. I think it's on Netflix at the moment, so give that one a watch. But another important thing that I think is worth addressing is to give your characters flaws that they will not overcome, because that's just what real life is. We are all able to actualize, we're all able to reach a catharsis and overcome issues about ourselves, both in fiction as well as in reality. But for the most part, universally we keep having problems, we keep having troubles that we deal with. And so I have this example here of the perks of being a wallflower. I promise Ezra Miller won't bite this time. But our main character on the bottom right there with Emma Watson leaning on him is Charlie. Charlie is this timid high schooler, and over the course of his story, a central flaw that he deals with is repressed trauma and repressed memories. And he deals with that, he overcomes it with the help of his friends, with a little help from therapy, and some journal keeping, which is the narrative that we read or see in the case of the film. But by the end of the story, he is still the titular wallflower. He's not a successful extrovert. That's an irritating narrative for introverts, actually. A little condescending, I think, to say, well, by the end of your story, you'll be an extrovert. You'll be totally fine. You won't be afraid of talking to your own audiences. You won't be afraid of socializing. Again, I think it's condescending. Keep those flaws for your side characters, not for your side characters. Keep those side flaws for your main characters. Let them continue to fall short in other ways, even as they overcome the principal flaw that is holding them back over the course of their story. How am I doing time-wise? I'm doing okay? Good. And another important thing that I like is allowing your characters to make bad choices, because guess what? In real life, we make bad choices sometimes. And again, since you are not your main character, your protagonist can make deliberately bad choices, and that is not a representation of you or what you would do in their place. It can be a knowing bad choice, it can be an accident, it can be perceived as an accident by our main character, but actually be totally on purpose. I'm thinking a separate piece there. But don't be afraid to let your readers be unhappy with your protagonist, so long as they understand the reasoning behind what your main character is doing. If they can understand why they did it, that is the avenue that will allow your readers to forgive your main character for making deliberately bad or immoral choices. The Heart's Invisible Furies is one of my favorite books. I recently gave it a round 2 read, which is why it's on my mind. The Heart's Invisible Furies deals with the entire life story of a gay man in 20th century Ireland. And it's one of the funniest books I've ever read. It is devastatingly sad. And about halfway through the book, our main character, who is in love with another man, courts and becomes engaged to that man's sister, and goes so far as to have their wedding day, and he marries this man's sister and comes out to him the day of the wedding. And again, marries this poor straight woman who has no idea that she is marrying a gay man who is obsessively in love with her brother. I know this is true for Sean as well. I wanted to throw the book at the wall. I was so angry with him. But at the same time, the book had made clear this historical context of 1960s Ireland, in which this character felt trapped and pressured into taking part in a heterosexual marriage. So it was a completely morally reprehensible choice on the part of the character, but the writing was effective enough in establishing why he would do that I hated him, and again, wanted to throw the book at the wall in the moment, but I understood why he did it, and there's enough story afterward that I had time to forgive him. And they do make amends, minor spoilers, I suppose. It's a wonderful book, please read it. Conversely, in The Secret History, our main character attends an obscure college, attended by one of our professors here at Utah State, actually, where he encounters this alluring, sexy, very closed group of classics students and their kind of culty lead professor. And he is so drawn in to the allure of these good-looking, charming, esoteric people that he helps them cover up a murder. That is not a spoiler, that is the first line of the book. But so do look into that one. And that is a case where you are compelled by these characters who make bad choices and do not ultimately repent all that much of them. And that's okay, as long as you are telling a story, as long as you have characters that are written well and who have believable flaws. But ultimately, a final thought I have is that let what your character becomes be key to what your story has to say about life in the world. And that is what will help you as a writer to, again, understand the idea that you are not your main character. And by letting what your character becomes be key to what your story has to say, will make it clear to your readers that when your characters make mistakes or make bad choices, or this is not my favorite word, but we'll use it, problematic choices, that will make it clear to your readers that that is not what you are saying about the world. You are not approving of what your character does. Instead, you are making a living, breathing human being who makes mistakes like an actual person does. Instead, it is in the actualization that you are able to more clearly discover your themes, what your story is about, and say what you have to say about the world, about life, about love, and all those grandiose, universal ideals. Now here is a brief summing up of all those main points. If you care to take notes or take like a picture with your phone or something like that. These are my thoughts for the time being. Do we take time for like questions? I have like some workshop things prepared up here, or do we go straight to open mic? How does this work?
There's writing time, so there's 35 minutes of writing.
Oh, excellent. So before we move into that, does anyone have any question, comment, concern, or complaint? No, that is just fine. I appreciate it, actually. I deal with a lot of questions as a teacher. So I have these writing prompts for you. Feel free to enjoy them, or I'm not your boss, write about whatever you want. But these are prepared thematically around the idea of awareness of character and flaw. And for the time being, that is my presentation. Thank you all for being here. Perfect, and thank you again. For the next 35 minutes, you said?
Yeah.
35 minutes, the time is yours to write about these things or whatever you so choose. I will leave this up here for your enjoyment though.
Good to go. Okay. This is one of my favorite spots. I get to thank all of you for coming. Before we jump into the open mic, thank you, Jack, for the presentation and for the wonderful prompts, and for sharing your wisdoms. And thank you all of you for coming to write in this space. I'm a big believer in writing in community. It's one of the things that I love the most in this world, is having a space where People who love to write can gather and be with one another. So thank you for making that space tonight. In the world of rookie mistakes, I left the clipboard with the sign-up sheet at my house. That doesn't mean that there's not an open mic. There is an open mic, but we're gonna do it a little bit more like, be braver and you have to raise your hand now. And I apologize that I'm asking for that much braveness, but if you would like to share, you have 7 minutes. It's uncensored, so you can share whatever you would like, and we can all have our thoughts about it, but we'll clap at the end anyway. And at the end of 7 minutes, we will clap you off the stage. Hopefully you'll wrap up before 7 minutes so that we don't have to, but we will. Would anybody like to read at the open mic? Okay. Then I will just say another thank you. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for making the space in all of your busy schedules to put your writing first. I really appreciate that space. Thank you.